About a year and a half ago, I bought the Nikon 50mm f1.4 Z lens. This is a review based on extensively shooting it since that time. You'll see plenty of sample photos, all of which were edited in Darktable, the photo editor that's better than chocolate. Physical features. The 50mm f1.4Z is a medium-sized 422-gram lens with 9 aperture blades, focus ring, and a function ring. It has a metal mount, is weather-sealed, and comes with a hood. Overall, excellent build quality. Sharpness. Center. Let's first look at the center at f1.4 versus f2. It looks pretty good wide open, but you can see that it sharpens up at f2. Here's a comparison between f2 and f4. By f4, the lens is looking really sharp. And comparing f4 to f5.6, you can see that there is not much improvement. Now, let's compare this lens to the Viltrox 50mm f2 lens with the Nikon on the left and the Viltrox on the right, both at f2. To me, these lenses look very close. At f4, the Nikon looks a little bit sharper. The paper texture and text looks just a little bit more well-defined with the Nikon. Basically, and this is consistent with my experience in the field with both lenses, the Viltrox is very close to the Nikon in the center, with the Nikon just a little bit better. Sharpness. Corners. What about the corners though? Let's look at the top left corner. For context, here's the center and corner at f1.4. Center left, corner right. Obviously, it's a little softer in the corner. And now, the same comparison at f4. Yeah, the corners don't look too bad, but obviously the center is much better. In the real world, the corners look pretty good though. How do the corners improve? Here's the corner at f1.4 versus f2. Definitely a huge improvement. It improves a bit more at f2.8. And at f4, there is a bigger improvement. Sharpness. Conclusion. In the real world, the lens is plenty sharp. And I think even though the corners have some issues, by f4 and beyond, the lens is definitely sharp enough for landscapes. The wider performance is a bit softer, but certainly fine for portraits. It won't break any records like the 50mm f1.8s, but it's acceptable for the price. Strengths. Number 1. It's fast. f1.4. The f1.4 aperture is the lens's main selling point. As you may know, f1.4 is 0.73 stops faster than f1.8, so it works very well for low light and making shallow depth of field portraits. Number 2, it's decently sharp wide open. Lots of very cheap fast lenses are soft wide open. This lens is reasonably sharp wide open. In this portrait, you can see that it looks pretty decent at f1.4, and it's certainly enough for portraits of people. Number 3, it works well with extension tubes. Yeah, I know, a lot of people won't be getting this lens to use for close-up photography, but I started using it with extension tubes because I like it better as a macro lens than as a portrait lens due to the reasons I'll explain in the weaknesses section. And with extension tubes, I've taken some of my favorite shots. Weaknesses. Number 1, not extremely fast autofocus. Here is a video of it autofocusing on a reasonably light, high-contrast object. Alright, now we're going to talk about the main deficiency of this lens, in my opinion. It's the very busy rendering. In my mind, the only real flaw of this lens is its rendering. I want to point out first that the rendering of this lens is acceptable in many cases. However, when the background is a little complex, the rendering becomes busy, and I mean real busy. And there's a reason for that. The bokeh has a fairly sharp edge to it, and it's compounded by the high degree of chromatic aberrations of this lens. You can see in this 100% crop that the bokeh balls have a harsh green edge to them. Also, you'll often get a strong double line effect that is especially pronounced in this lens. Here's a test shot comparing it to the Viltrox 50mm f2 at f2 of the test chart taken at an oblique angle. You can see indeed that the chromatic aberrations on the Nikon are more severe. However, as is typical, you can improve the problem by stopping down. So here's the Nikon at f1.4 versus f5.6. Of course, once you stop down, you don't get the very blown out background either. Anyway, the question is this busy background rendering actually a problem? In many cases, no. But outdoor areas with complex bokeh will very often have busy rendering. Can it be fixed in post? Only somewhat. You can correct the chromatic aberrations sometimes, but the busy look won't completely go away. And correcting chromatic aberrations in out-of-focus areas is not always straightforward either. In my opinion, Nikon made a bit of a mistake with how they optimized this lens. I think they focused too much on getting the lens extra sharp when more emphasis should have been given to its bokeh and rendering. Okay, conclusion. I don't want to sound too negative about this lens, and I like some aspects of it. I like the fast f1.4 aperture, I like that it's sharp, and I like that it works well with extension tubes, which is kind of a bonus I wasn't expecting. But I really wanted to love this lens as a portrait lens, and I just don't. In fact, from the time that I processed my very first shot, I was distracted by the bokeh, even without zooming in or pixel peeping or anything. It just looks a little bit too busy for me. So although it's not a bad lens and you can create good photos with it within its limitations, personally, I think it could have been a lot better. So I give it an overall score of 3 out of 5. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again next time.